Welcome back, everyone, to Pontos Fathom Hobbies. We've got a model build for you today with the VF-1 Batroid Valkyrie from the Macross saga. I grew up with knowing this one as the Veritech fighter of Roy Fokker from the Robotech saga, but it is Macross. This is, one of the early Transformers that we saw on TV. We'll dig into this model build now. It looks really great. I picked this up last time I was in Japan, and looking forward to building this. So let's get into it. Thanks for watching. Got a bunch of decals on, got some line work done. We're just doing the final assembly here. And then I'm going to let you guys see the hero shots. Before we do, quick word from this channel's sponsor, and then we'll jump into the reveal. We'll see you on the other side. Thank you guys for making it this far. Fathom Hobbies is brought to you by the books that we produce. We've got the 6 volumes of August Moldenhauer and Giuseppe Balsamo's Cat 2 journals out of Lovecraft's Providence, including the Hermeticism of Hastur, Genealogy of Cthulhu, Necromancy of Nyarlathotep, and also featuring our hardcover edition of the Cat 2 journals. We've also got the 3 volumes of August Moldenhauer's Artificial Psychoanalysis Desiring Machines, also available in our hardcover edition. We've also got our podcast series featuring the Esoteric Saturn Mysteries, the Esoteric Dragon Mysteries, and also Alchemy and Anthroposophy in the Dune Saga, a deep dive into what makes Frank Herbert's Dune Saga resonate with us. We've got a special sponsor this month, Nereus Media, featuring Benson Magos' Flowing the Tears of the Flesh Android and the Trump trilogy ending in the God Emperor Trump. Finally, we've got our newest offering, The Alchemical Courtship in the Dreamlands, taking place in Lovecraft's Dreamlands. Each volume takes place in a different Lovecraft city. Aimless in the dream city of Cellophase, Hope's Home in Iron Dome, Dalathleen, Stubborn Devotions in Thrawn with the Temple of Hypnos. Check out the bookstore link, check out our Patreon. Yeah, so I'm really liking how this model build came out. I've got some of the decals on. I'll probably put the rest of them on after. I just want to get these hero shots out to you guys. Really liking how this came out, addition to our Macross collection. Yes, so I'm really happy how this model came out. If you want to, you can go check our other model builds. We've got tons of Evangelion out there. I've also done the Genesis Climber Mospita transforming bikes that you guys can go check those out as well. All part of the sort of ongoing Robotech saga. Thank you guys for making it all the way. Check out our bookstore. Check out our Patreon. Like and subscribe. Leave a note below, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.